Right now, for the next 15 minutes, I want us to think a little bit more about the training data and how humans, especially here creators, photographers, kind of change their behavior when their creative works become AI training data. So this is kind of the whole paper, what it is about. It started only in the beginning of the year in our lab, so which is led by Christian Peukert. Maybe some of you actually know him. And then there's also Florian, Jeremy, and Alexander on the team. So you probably have heard of this thing. So the Times actually sued OpenAI and Microsoft for using all their kind of data to kind of train their model. And this is something that was very prevalent on the news. So we realized, okay, some people really don't like this, and some companies also don't like this. There's been other like smaller cases where we can see, okay, photographers also, trying to sue some other companies that were using their data. Also, Getty Images have filed a lawsuit against Ability AI. Things like that are happening. So this is kind of like a thing right now. So it's relevant. The point is, we actually need this human creative works to generate these models, right? So these AI models are really based on human creations, text, images, sound, recordings, and videos. And we have like a general stock of data on the internet that these current models are trained on, right? And we have seen, maybe we were discussing yesterday, we're not yet running out of data, but like, some companies are actually like, trying hard to really get to new data to actually kind of improve their models. So in the dynamic setting we're living in, it's important to have this continuous flow of data in order to update your models and like keep the models at the state of the art, right? So this is kind of what we are addressing here, this general idea of like humans kind of interact, like creating in order to improve the models. And then we ask the question, how do users actually change their behavior if their works become AI training data? And what does this do to the quality of the training data? And here we especially look at variety and novelty. I'll get to back to that a little later. So our empirical setting is this platform called Unsplash. It's actually the 5th largest photography, like stock photography website in the world. It has about 30 million visits per month. And it hosts very high quality user-generated content. So right now there are about 6 million images on the platform by about more than 365,000 creators. Important to know for just the quality measures that we're using later on is that all these images are tagged by keywords, either by the creators, so they kind of have some user-specified keywords, like kind of indicating, okay, there's like nature, tree, something like that, that you can see on the picture. And then there's also like some automated keywords generated by an algorithm that is kind of data added to these pictures. And then when thinking about like the motivation that I just gave you, like about the people or the firms that don't like their content to be used for AI training data, this also comes back often to like a copyright question. So that you kind of own the copyright, and the firms that are using the models to train their stuff on this data, they're not like paying you any royalties. But here, in this case, this doesn't really apply, because the people that actually upload their high quality images to this platform, they kind of give up already all their copyrights. So this is very special settings, because all these images are actually really free to use for non-commercial and also for commercial reasons. So I will show you in a second, we still see the strong reaction of people, even if they had already given up all their copyright when uploading. All right, so here we have this really nice natural experiment when Unsplash released this AI training data set in the summer of 2020. And they kind of advertise it as that the users will be given access to the world's largest open library data set. And they kind of released here this light data set, which consists of 25,000 images that were on the platform at that moment. Additionally, they also release a full data set, but this is only accessible for people like us, kind of researchers that use that for non-commercial reasons. So we kind of have access to this full data set at certain points in time, but we also have access to this light data set, but that kind of everyone can download this kind of light data set. It's really easy to access. And the users on this platform, they kind of were informed by the release of this light data set only through a blog post. And everyone who's kind of uploading regularly to the platform, you would also receive an email about the most recent blog posts. So this is how users were kind of informed. One caveat is here, we see a strong reaction, but we don't really know how the people that were actually kind of treated, so whose pictures were really, or images were really in the light data set, whether they were informed somehow differently. So we are thinking of running a survey, but this I cannot tell you so far. What we are doing here is we have this option to run this nice definitive. So we kind of compare the behavior of users whose works or images were included in a light data set to the behavior of users who had no picture included in a light data set. Right? So we have the treatment group. This is obvious, all the pictures that are there. We look at who uploaded this, and this is about more than 8,000, about 8,300 users that had at least one image in this light data set. And then we do quite some work in order to create a proper control group. So I was telling you before that there was 25,000 images in this light data set. And we kind of know, or we got from the firm, from Anstar, we actually got the command that they were running in order to kind of extract these first 25,000. The issues here, we don't know how this data was sorted, but we try several things, and we construct this control group based on the other information that we have about how these images were kind of included in this slide. But it seems to us that it's pretty random. So this person did not apply any specific ordering mechanism here. So no matter how we construct the control group, our results are pretty consistent. So I will go with the strictest version that we create, and it's a control group of about 3,700 users who had no image included in the light data set, but they had images that were actually eligible to be included in the light data set. And then we run this general definitive. So we kind of estimate the delta coefficient here, our definitive coefficient, and we add also time fixed effect, user fixed effects. And one of our outcome variables, which I will focus on now, is the number of images uploaded by each user in a certain month around the time that we can observe the user. Right, and this is kind of already our major outcome table. It's kind of the estimation of this delta coefficient, the different coefficient in each month. And we see this strong drop in the uploading behavior for the treated group. So all the people that had at least one image included in this light data set, they upload more or less one image less per month on this platform. We can do kind of different kinds of versions of our dependent variables. We can look at the number of uploads. So here we see a decrease in 40%. We can also look at the probability of uploading. So kind of we fill up the panel and look at whether you uploaded in a certain month at least one image. So kind of a dummy variable. We see when we do this kind of in economic terms, it would be the extensive margin. When this is the intensive margin, we see a 30% decrease. We can also run a log model. We can do a Poisson regression. So this is all very consistent. We see this very strong and significant drop in the uploading behavior of the treated group. We can then also access information about whether the picture that was uploaded was taken by a person who had professional gear. So we kind of we think we can distinguish between professional photographers and rather amateur photographers, and we see a stronger reaction by the people that actually have this really good gear in order to take their pictures. And there's also this option to add this information about, okay, I am here and I can work for hire. And also these people react more strongly. So this already makes us think about a little bit the mechanisms. So maybe the people that are more fearing of being replaced, they react by AI models, they're actually reacting more strongly, more negatively. So this was kind of the one part that we do in terms of assessing that there's a quantity reduction in the data that we are actually getting in order to train our AI model. And now we can also look at the quality. And some two measures that are often used in the literature are variety and novelty when it comes to kind of measuring the quality of the content that is there. And we measure variety of new uploads by looking at how similar each new upload is relative to all the existing stock on the platform 1 year ahead of the release of the light data set. And then we also look at novelty, and here we count the number of existing images that are very similar to the new upload. right? So these are two measures that we use in order to kind of access or assess a little bit the quality of the pictures that are uploaded after the light data set release. And herefore, we use some NLPs by these user-specified keywords, because the ones by the algorithm are not so clear. So we see this this decrease in the variety and also a decrease in the novelty of content that is uploaded. Just here, like a little bit of the graph, but we can also see this in the data. And the interesting thing is here, we can use user-fixed effects, or we can like leave them out. And what I'm telling you here is that like, the stronger decrease comes from the across-user variation. So this kind of comes back to the point that I was making before. Maybe it's like rather like the group of users differs a little bit that is now continuing to contribute, but also the quality in terms of like the difference in the quality differs across users more. So yeah, so this is some extra finding that we have. So in the end, we can do like kind of back of the envelope calculation in order to get a little bit more towards the aggregate effect. So what does this mean? And we can kind of simulate how the effect would have looked like if more or less users would have been kind of in the light data set, would have been treated, right? So, and what this then do to the overall flow of data that we see coming into our AI training data. So without the release of the light data set, we calculate that we would have had about 20,000 more images uploaded to the platform. Whereas if the entire catalog of would have been like made available for AI research, so every person on the platform would have been treated, we would have seen a reduction in the flow of data, the new creations, by about 39%. So this is quite strong, right? So in general, what we find is if you see this decrease in quantity, I was telling you, right? The treatise users are less likely to upload new content, but they are also another thing that we look at is that we see that they are less likely to stay on the platform, so they delete their account, right? On the other hand, we have this like quality reduction. So we see that there's a decrease in variety and novelty of these uploaded images on the platform. So overall, this means we have a quantity and a quality reduction when it comes to like the flow of data that goes into the AI training data. And then if we have like kind of people, like the humans that actually create work, they create less interesting work, or at least they contribute less interesting works. But then we also end up in the world with lower quality AI output, right? Because the AI is trained on this information that is contributed by humans, and if this decreases in quantity and quality, then also the output of the generative AI models will be worse. Just to conclude, I will add this like small discussion. So how can we actually motivate people to keep contributing, right, to these platforms? So we were thinking, okay, there might be the option for a dual compensation mechanism. So first we would have like the option for a usage-based remuneration model. So to actually compensate users when they're contributing to AI training data. So kind of they give access to this data like kind of openly, so we can say, okay, you will be remunerated if you want to contribute here, but not just like whether you want to, but also if you contribute work that is of high quality. So we could add like some kind of outcome-based bonuses in case the data that you kind of give access to for this AI training would then end up in having some commercial success, or also would be technologically valuable, right? So that users would not just be remunerated for the use of their data, but also for the quality of the data that they kind of give access to. So, and for this, we would need advanced tracking mechanisms and technologies, but we actually do have that. We do have digital fingerprinting, and we could go back to that from computer science and use that. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions, and yeah, thank you for your attention. Yes.
Do you think that this means that due to especially the last slide regarding economics, and maybe for the LLM developers, it gets more expensive eventually, will they shift to using synthetic data to train their models?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Actually, I'm not sure whether you're aware. There were actually some people right around, not the corner, but in Stanford, right? They wrote this this paper about how whether this could actually replace human data, right? And they find that there's a certain option where we like a model collapse. If you like kind of train your models on AI-generated content, but I think this is there we need much more work on that, right? This is not yet clear, and we will also be having much more AI-generated data included in the training data in general, right? Because what we're writing now is already like 50% produced by AI, right? So, yeah, it's a good point.
Any other questions?
I'm curious if you see on the other side there is increased amount of AI-generated content getting uploaded into Unsplash.
Yes, I think actually the pictures that I was using, I think they are not human created anymore, like 100%, right? So I think they're partly. This is what I put in order to for this workshop, business and Gen AI. So this doesn't look like the pictures that were like going back in the days going into this AI training data. But yeah, I think this does happen. But here we really don't look at that. There's actually a really nice paper by Anil Jaguz and co-authors where they look at two other platforms where they either allow or don't allow or like kind of using Gen AI to produce pictures. Yeah, but I can forward you this paper if you want. Yeah, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Excuse me. Hey, I love this work. I don't know so much about this context, but I'm wondering how much of this has to do with choice versus AI. Like if people were given the choice to post their pictures up.
Yeah, so this is the question I cannot answer right now because we haven't run the survey, right? But we are thinking that maybe this is a mechanism, right? Because they already give up all their copyright, right? As I was writing here, this Unsplash license to be free, but they were not asked for their stuff to be included in the AI training data. And we actually compare. We can also track some of them on Instagram. And we see that they don't change the uploading behavior to Instagram. So apparently it is really about like not, maybe not being asked, but definitely being like their stuff being used in order to train AI. So this is what they really don't like. We don't know exactly why they don't like it yet. So this is something we are further investigating. But thank you.
Any other questions?
We have a photographer in the room, actually. Yeah.
I was not expecting to have anything to say at this event. I personally have 12,000 photos for sale on adobestock.com.
Okay.
And I get a monthly payout every month of between $50 and a couple of $100. And one day, the payout was almost $2,000 with no clear explanation. And a few days later, an email came out, and I realized that I was among several other photographers who had gotten this one-time payout, and it was explained that this was compensation, a one-time compensation for allowing Adobe to use my photos as part of their training data. Now, we were all...
For the internal model then, so they didn't sell it.
No, it was entirely internal there at Adobe.
Yeah.
We were all expecting our earnings to start dropping after that, now that Adobe allows you to use AI to generate so many images, but that was 2 years ago, and they're still earning as much as they did before. So I have been on the other end of this, but a little extra spending money is always welcome.
Thanks a lot. Super interesting insights. Thanks a lot for sharing. This is great.
Were there any other questions?
I think my question is really, were the consumers aware that they'd given up copyrights on Unsplash? Because technically, if you upload to Insta or Facebook, you still maintain copyright, even if you don't formally file it.
So yes, so there was actually a huge discussion on this platform beforehand, and then actually afterwards they only created this Unsplash license. Before it was already they were already giving up the copyright, but it was not 100% clear to everyone. So there was this discussion going on, and then they created this explicit Unsplash license where they really, everyone has to comply with that when they first upload. So I think it's pretty clear to the users, yeah. But it was not really communicated before this kind of one-time announcement that they would be using this for, or like giving this out for AI training. Yeah, thank you.